forbidden forest. It couldn't have been worse. Bleach took them down to Professor McGonagall's study on the first floor, where they sat and waited without saying a word to each other. Hermione was trembling, excuse Albus, and wild cover-up stories chased each other around Harry's brain, each more fabled than the last. He couldn't see how they were going to get out of trouble this time. They were concerned how would they have been so stupid as to forget the clock. There was no reason on earth that Professor McGonagall would, except for being out of bed and creeping around the school in the dead of night, let alone being up the tallest astronomy tower, which was out of board except for classes at Norbert and the invisibility clock, and they might as well be packed their bags already. Had Harry thought that things couldn't have been worse, he was wrong. When Professor McGonagall appeared, she was leading Neville. Harry, Neville burst out the moment he saw the other two. I was trying to find you to warn you. I heard Malfoy saying he was going to catch you. He said you had a drag. Harry shook his head violently to shut Neville up, but Professor McGonagall had seen. He looked more likely to breathe fire than Norbert as she towered over the three of them. I would never have believed it of any of you. Mr. Fleet said you were up in the astronomy tower. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Explain yourself. It was the first time Hermione had ever failed to answer a teacher's question. She was staring at her slippers as still a statue. I think I have got to a good idea of what's been going on, said Professor McGonagall. It doesn't take a genius to work it out. You fed Draco Malfoy some clock and bull story about a dragon, trying to get him out of bed and into trouble. I have already caught him. I suppose you think it's funny that Longbottom here heard the story and believed it too. Harry caught Neville's eyes and tried to tell him without word that this wasn't true, because Neville was looking stunned and hurt. Poor blundering Neville. Harry knew what it must have cost him to try to find them in the dark, to warn them. I'm disgusted, said Professor McGonagall. Four students out of the bed in one night. I have never heard of such a thing before. You Miss Granger. I thought you had more sense. As for you, Mr. Potter, I thought Gryffindor meant more to you than this. All three of you will receive detentions. Yes, you too, Mr. Longbottom. Nothing gives you right to walk around the school at midnight. Especially this day, it's very dangerous and 50 points will be taken from Gryffindor. 50. Harry gasped. They would lose the lead. The lead hadn't won in the last Quidditch match. 50 points each, said Professor McGonagall, breathing heavily through her long pointed nose. Professor, please, you can't. Don't tell me what I can and can't do, Potter. Now get back to bed, all of you. I have never been more ashamed of Gryffindor's students. 150 points lost. That put Gryffindor in the past place. In one night, they had run any chance Gryffindor had had for this house cup. Harry felt as though the bottom had dropped out of his stomach. How could they ever make up for this? Harry didn't sleep all night. He could hear Neville sobbing into his pillow for what seemed like hours. Harry couldn't think of anything to say to comfort him. He knew Neville life himself was dreading the dawn. What would happen when the rest of Gryffindor found out what they had done? At first, Gryffindor's passing the giant hard glass that record the house point the next day threw out. There had been a mistake. How could they suddenly have 150 points fewer than yesterday? And then the story started to spread. Harry Potter. famous Harry Potter, the hero of two Quidditch matches, had lost them all those points him and a couple of other stupid first years. From being one of the most popular and admired people at the school, Harry was suddenly the most hated. Even Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs turned on him because everyone had been belonging to see Slytherin lose the Quiz Cup. Everywhere Harry went, people pointed at him, trouble to lower their voices as they insulted him. Slytherins, on the other hand, clapped as he walked past them, whistling and cheering. Thanks, Potter, we owe you one. Only Ron stood by him. They'll all forgot this is a few weeks. Fred and George have lost lots of points in all the time they have been near, and people still like them. They have never lost 150 points in one go, though have they? Said Harry miserably. Well, no, Ron admitted. It was a bit late to repair the damage, but Harry swore to himself not to meddle in things that weren't his business from now on. He had it with sneaking around and spying. He felt so ashamed of himself that he went to Wood and offered to resign from the Quidditch team. Resign? Wood thundered. What good I'll do at do? How are we going to get any point back if we can't win a Quidditch? But even Quidditch had lost its fun. The rest of the team wouldn't speak to Harry during practice, and if they had to speak about him, well, the seeker. Hermione and Neville were suffering too. They didn't have as bad time as Harry because they weren't as well known. But nobody would speak to them. Either Hermione had stopped drawing attention to herself in class, keeping her head down and working in silence. Harry was almost glad that the exam weren't far away. All the studying he had to do kept his mind off his misery. He, Ron, and Hermione kept to themselves, working late into the night trying to remember the ingredients in complicated potions, learn charms and spells by heart, memorizing the dates of magical discoveries and goblin rebellions. Then, about a week before the exam were due to start, Harry's new resolution not to interfere in anything that didn't concern him was put to an unexpected test. Walking back from the library on his own one afternoon, he heard somebody whispering from the classroom up ahead. As he drew closer, he heard Quirrell's voice. No, no, not again, please. It sounded as though someone was threatening him. Harry moved closer. All right. He heard Quirrell. So, next second, Quirrell came hurrying out of the classroom, straightening his turban. He was pale and looked as tough he was about to cry. He strode out of sight. Harry didn't think Quirrell had even noticed him. He waited until Quirrell's footsteps had disappeared, then peered into the classroom. It was empty, but a door stood ajar at the other end. Harry was halfway towards it before he remembered what he had promised himself about not meddling. All the same, he had gambled 12 sorcerer's stone that Snape had just left the room. And from what Harry had just heard, Snape would be walking with a new spring in his step. Quirrell seemed to have given in at last. Harry went back to the library where Hermione was testing Ron on astronomy. Harry told them what he had heard. Snape's done it. Then said Ron, if Quirrell told him how to break his anti-dark force spell, there is still Fluffy. Tough, said Hermione. Maybe Snape found out how to get past him without asking Hagrid, said Ron, looking up at the thousands of books surrounding them. I bet there is a book somewhere in here telling you how to get past giant three-headed dog. So what do we do, Harry? The light of adventure was kindling against in Ron's eyes, but Hermione answered before Harry could. Go to Dumbledore. That's what we should have done ages ago. If we try anything ourselves, we'll be thrown out for sure. But we haven't got no proof, said Harry. Quirrell's too scared to back us up. Snape's only got to say he doesn't know how to troll got in at Halloween and that he was nowhere near the third floor. How do you think they'll believe him or us? It's not exactly a secret we hate him. Dumbledore will think we made it up to get him sacked. Fletch wouldn't help us if his life depended on it. He's too friendly with Snape, and the more students get thrown out, the better he'll think. And don't forget, we are not supposed to know about the stone or Fluffy. That will take a lot of explaining. Hermione looked convinced, but Ron didn't. If we just do a bit of poking around, no, said Harry flatly. We have done enough poking around. We pulled a map of Jupiter toward him and started to learn the names of its moon. The following morning, notes were delivered to Harry. Hermione and Neville at last, the breakfast table. They were all the same. Your detention will take place at 11 o'clock tonight. Meet Mr. Fletch in the entrance hall. Professor McGonagall. Harry had forgotten they still had detentions to do in the furor over the points they had lost. He half expected Hermione to complain that this was a whole night of studying lost, but she didn't say a word. Like Harry, she felt they deserved that they had caught. At 11 o'clock that night, they said goodbye to Ron in the common room and went down to the entrance hall with Neville. Fletch was already there, and so was Malfoy. Harry has also forgotten that Malfoy had gotten a detention too. Follow me, said Fletch, lighting a lamp and leading them outside. I bet you'll think twice about breaking a school rule again, won't you? Yeah. He said, learning at them. Oh, yes. Hard work and pain are the best teachers, if you ask me. It's just a pity they let the old punishment die out. Hang on by your wrist from the ceiling for a few days. I have got the chains still in my office. Keep them well oiled in case they are ever needed. Right, off we go. And don't think of running off now. It will be worse for you if you do. They march off across the dark grounds. Neville kept sniffing. Harry wondered what their punishment was going to be. It must be something really horrible, or Fletch wouldn't be sounding so delighted. The moon was bright, but clouds scudding across it kept throwing them into darkness. Ahead, Harry could see the light window of Hagrid's hut. Then they heard a distant shout. Is that you, Fletch? Hurry up, I won't get to start. Harry's heart rose. If they were going to be working with Hagrid, it wouldn't be so bad. His relief must have shown in his face because Fletch said, I suppose you think you'll be enjoy yourself with that off. We'll think again, boy. It's into the forest you are going, and I'm much mistaken if you'll all come out in one piece. At this, Neville let out a little moan, and Malfoy stopped dead in his track. The forest, he repeated, and he didn't sound quite as cool as usual. We can't go in there at night. There is all sort of thing in there werewolves, I heard. Neville clutched the sleeves of Harry's robe and made a choking noise. That's your problem, isn't it? Said Fletch, his voice cracking with glee. Should I have thought of them werewolves before you got in trouble, shouldn't you? Hagrid comes striding towards them out of the dark, fang at his heel. He was carrying his large crossbow and quiver of arrows hung over his shoulder. About time, he said. I've been waiting for half an hour already. All right, Harry, Hermione. I shouldn't be too friendly to them, Hagrid, said Fletch coldly. They are here to punishment after all. That's why you are late, is it? Said Hagrid, following at Fletch. Been lecturing them now. It's not your place to do that. You have done your bit. I'll take over from here. I'll be back at dawn, said Fletch, for what's left of them. He added nastily, and he turned and started back towards the castle. his lamp bobbing away in the darkness. Malfoy now turned to Hagrid. I'm not going in the forest, he said, and Harry was pleased to hear the note of panic in his voice. You are if you want to stay at Hogwarts, said Hagrid fiercely. You have done wrong, and now you have got to pay for it. But this is servant stuff. It's not for student to do. I thought we had copying lines or something. If my father knew I was going this, he had tell you that's how it is at Hogwarts. Hagrid growled, copying lines could start to anyone. You'll do, Sumit, before or you'll get out. If you think your father's rather you were expelled, then get back off to the castle and pack or go on. Malfoy didn't move. He looked at Hagrid furiously, but then dropped his gaze. Right then, said Hagrid. Now listen carefully, cause it's dangerous. What we are gonna do tonight? I don't want no one talking risk. Follow me over here a moment. He led them to the very edge of the forest, holding his lamp up light. He pointed down a narrow, winding earth track that disappeared into the thick black tree. A light breeze lifted their hair as they looked into the forest. Look here, said Hagrid. See that stuff shining on the ground? Silver stuff. That's unicorn blood. There is a unicorn in there being hurt badly by Sumit. This is the second time in a week. I have found one dead last Wednesday. We are gonna try and find the poor thing. We might have to put it out of its misery. And what if whatever hurt the unicorn finds us first? Said Malfoy, unable to keep the fear out of his voice. There is nothing that lives in the forest that will hurt you if you with me or Fang, said Hagrid, and keep to the path. Right now, we're gonna split into two parties and follow the trail in different directions. There is blood all over the place. It must been streaming around since last night at last. I want Fang, said Malfoy quickly, looking at Fang's long teeth. All right, but I warn you, he's a coward, said Hagrid. So me, Harry. As Hermione go on the way and Draco, Neville and Fang will go the other. Now, if any of us find the unicorn, we'll send a green spark right. Get your wands out and practice now. That's it. And if anyone gets in trouble, send up red sparks, as we'll all come and find you. So be careful, let's go. The forest was black and silent. A little way into the wood, it reached a fork in the earth path, and Harry, Hermione, and Hagrid looked the left path while Malfoy, Neville, and Fang took the right. They walked in silence, their eyes on the ground. Every now and then, a ray of moonlight through the branches above lit a spot of silver blue blood on the fallen leaves. Harry saw that Hagrid looked very worried. Could a werewolf be killing the unicorn? Harry asked. Not fast enough, said Hagrid. It's not easy to catch a unicorn. They're powerful magic creature. I never knew one to be hurt before. They walked past a mossy tree stump. Harry could hear running water. There must be streams somewhere close by. There were still spots of unicorn blood here and there along the winding path. You all right, Hermione? Hagrid whispered. Don't worry, it can't go on too far if it's this badly hurt, and then we'll be able to get behind that tree. Hagrid seized Harry and Hermione and hoisted them off the path behind a towering oak. He pulled out an arrow and fitted it into the crossbow, raising it ready to fire. The three of them listened. Something was glittering near. It sounded like a clock trailing along the ground. Hagrid was twittering up the dark path, but after a few seconds, the sound faded away. I knew it, he murmured. There is Sumit in here that shouldn't be. Oh, we're full, Harry suggested. That wasn't no werewolf, as it wasn't no unicorn either, said Hagrid grimly. Right, follow me. But careful now. They walked more slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. Suddenly, in a clearing ahead, something definitely moved. Who is there? Hagrid called. Show yourself. I'm armed. And into the clearing came. Was it a man or a horse? To the west, a man with red hair and beard, but below that was a horse, gleaming chestnut body with a long reddish tail. Harry and Hermione jaw dropped. Oh, it's you, Ronan, said Hagrid in relief. How are you? He walked forward and shook the centaur head. Good evening to you, Hagrid, said Ronan. He had a deep, sorrowful voice. Where are you going to shoot me? Can't be too careful, Ronan, said Hagrid, patting his crossbow. There is some bad news in this forest. This is Harry Potter and Hermione Granger. By the way, student up at school. And this is Ronan, you too. He's a centaur. We had noticed, said Hermione faintly. Good evening, said Ronan. Students, are you? And do you learn much up at the school? A bit, said Hermione timidly. A bit. Well, that's something, Ronan sighed. He flung back his head and started at the sky. Mars is bright tonight. Yeah, said Hagrid, glancing up too. Listen, I'm glad we have run into you, Ronan, cause there is a unicorn been heard. You seen anything? Ronan didn't answer immediately. He stared unblinkingly upward, then sighed again. Always the innocent are the first victim, he said. So it had been for ages past, so it is now. You said, Hagrid. But have you seen anything, Ronan? Anything unusual? Mars is bright tonight, Ronan repeated, while Hagrid watched him impatiently. Unusual bright. Yeah, but I was meaning anything unusual a bit nearer home, said Hagrid. So you haven't noticed anything strange? Yet again, Ronan took a while to answer. At last he said, the forest hides many secrets. A movement in the trees behind Ronan made Hagrid raise his bow again, but it was only a second. Centaur, black-haired and bodied and wild-looking than Ronan. Hello, Ben, said Hagrid. All right, good evening. Hagrid, I hope you are well. Well enough. Look, I have just been asking Ronan. You see anything on in there lately? There is a unicorn been injured. Would you know anything about it? Ben walked over to stand next to Ronan. He looked skyward. Mars is bright tonight, he said simply. We have heard, said Hagrid grumpily. Well, if either of you do anything, let me know. Won't you? Will be of them. Harry and Hermione followed him out of the clearing, staring over their shoulders at Ronan and Ben until the tree blocked their view. Never, said Hagrid, irritable. Try and get a straight answer out of the centaur. Ruddy stragglers, not interested in anything closer. Moon. Are there many of them in there? Asked Hermione. Oh, a fair few. Keep themselves to themselves mostly, but they are good enough about turning up if ever I want a word. They are deep mind censors, but they know things, just don't let so on much. Do you think that was a censor we heard earlier? Said Harry. Did that sound like who's to you? Nah, if you ask me, that was what been killing the unicorn. Never heard anything like it before. They walked on through the dense dark tree. Harry kept looking nervously over his shoulder. He had a nasty feeling they were being watched. He was very glad they had Hagrid and his crossbow with them. They had just passed a bend in the path when Hermione grabbed Hagrid's arm. Hagrid looked red spark. The others are in trouble. You two wait here, Hagrid shouted. Stay on the path. I'll come back for you. They heard him crashing away through the undergrowth and stood looking at each other, very scared, until they couldn't hear anything but rustling of leaves around them. You don't think they have been hurt, do you? Whispered Hermione. I don't care if Malfoy has, but if something got Neville, it's our fault he's here in the first place. The minute dragged by, their ears seemed sharper than usual. Harry seemed to be picking up every single of the wind, every cracking twig. What was going on? Where were the others? At last, a grand crunching noise around announced Hagrid returned. Malfoy, Neville, and Fang were with him. Hagrid was funny. Malfoy, it seemed, he sneaked up behind Neville and grabbed him as a joke. Neville had panicked and sent up the spark. We'll be lucky to catch anything now. With the racket you two were making, right? We are changing groups. Neville, you stay with me and Hermione. Harry, you go with Fang and that idiot. I'm sorry, Hagrid added in a whisper to Harry, but he'll have a harder time frightening you, and we have got to get this done. So Harry set off into the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walked from nearly half an hour deeper and deeper into the forest until the path became almost impossible to follow because the trees were so thick. Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. There were splashed on the root of the trees, as though the poor creature had been thrashing around in pain. Closer by, Harry would see a cleaning ahead through the tangled branch of the ancient oak. Look, he murmured, holding out his arm to stop Malfoy. Something bright white was gleaming on the ground. They inched closer. It was unicorn all right, and it was dead. Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and sad. Its long, slender legs were stuck out odd angles where it had fallen, and its mane was spread purely white on the dark leaves. Harry had taken one step toward it when a slithering sound made him freeze where he stood. A bush on the edge of the clearing quivered, and out of the shadow a hooded figure came crawling across the ground like some stalking beast. Harry, Malfoy, and Fang stood transfixed. Clock figure reached the unicorn, lowered its head over the wound in the animal's side, and began to drink its blood. Malfoy let out a terrible scream and bolted. So did Fang. The hooded figure raised his head and looked right at Harry. Unicorn blood was dripping down its front. It got to its feet and came swiftly towards Harry. He couldn't move for fear. Then a pain like he had never felt before pierced his ear. It was though his car were on fire. Half blinded, he straggled backward. He feared who's behind him, galloping, and something jumped clean over Harry, charging at the figure. The pain in Harry's head was so bad he fell to his knees. It took a minute or two to pass. When he looked up, the figure had gone. A centaur was standing over him, not Ronan or Ben. This one looked younger. He had white blonde hair and a Palomian body. Are you all right? Said Centaur, pulling Harry to his feet. Yes, thank you. What was that? The Centaur didn't answer. He had astonishingly blue eyes, like pale sapphire. He looked careful at Harry, his eyes lingering on the scare that stood out, lived on Harry's forehead. You are the Potter boy, he said. You had better get back to Hagrid. The forest is not safe at this time, especially for you. Can you ride? I will be quicker this way. My name is Firenze, he added as he lowered himself on his front legs to that Harry could clamber onto his back. There was suddenly a sound of more galloping from other side, further the clearing. Ronan and Ben. came bursting through the trees they are flying. Having and sweetie, Firenze, Ben thundered. What are you doing? You have a human on your back. Have you no shame? Are you a common mule? Do you realize who this is? Said Prince. This is a porter boy. The quicker he leaves this forest is better. What have you been telling him? Growled Ben. Remember, Prince, we are sworn not to set ourselves against the heaven. Have we not read what is to come in the movement of the planet? Ronan pawed the ground nervously. I'm sure Prince thought he was acting to the best, he said in his gloomy voice. Ben kicked his back legs in anger. For the best, what is that to do with us? Censure are concerned with what has been foretold. It is not our business to run around like donkey after stray humans in our forest. Prince suddenly reared on his hindlings in anger, so that Harry had to grab his shoulder to stay on. Do you not see that unicorn? Prince bellowed and bent. Do you not understand why it was killed? Or have the planet not let you in on that secret? I set myself against what is lurking in this forest, when yes, with humans alongside me if I must, and friends whisked around, with Harry clutching on as best he could. They plunked off into the tree, leaving Ronan and Ben behind them. Harry didn't have a clue what was going on. Why is Ben so angry? He asked, what was that thing you saved me from anyway? Prince showed to a walk, warned Harry to keep his head bowed in case of low hanging branches, but did not answer Harry's question. They made their way through the tree in silence for a long that Harry thought Fizz didn't want to talk to him anymore. They were passing through a particularly dense patch of tree. However, when Prince suddenly stopped, Harry Potter, do you know what unicorn blood is used for? No, said Harry, startled by the odd question. We have only used the horn and tail here in potions. That is because it is the monstrous things to slay a unicorn, said Prince. Only one who has nothing to lose and everything to gain would commit such a crime. The blood of unicorn will keep you alive, even if you are an inch from death, but at a terrible price. You have slain something pure and defenseless to save yourself, and you will have but a half life, a cursed life, from the moment the blood touches your lips. Harry stared at the back of Prince's head, which was dappled silver in the moonlight. But who had be that desperate? He wondered aloud. If you're going to be cursed forever, then better reason it is. Prince continued. Unless all you need is to stay alive alone. Something that will bring back you to full strength and power. Something that will mean you can never die. Mr. Potter, do you know what is hidden in the school at this very moment? The Sorcerer's Stone, of course. The elixir of life. But I don't understand. Who can you think of? Nobody who had waited many years to return to power, who has clung to life awaiting their chance. It was as tough as an iron fist had clenched suddenly around Harry's heart. Over the rustling of the trees, he seemed to hear once more what Hagrid had told him on the night they had met. Some say he died Codswallop. In my opinion, don't know if he had enough human left in him to die. Do you mean Harry croaked that was Wall? Harry, are you alright? Hermione was running toward them down the path, Hagrid puffing along behind her. I'm fine, said Harry, hardly knowing what he was saying. The unicorn's dead. Hagrid, it's in the clearing back there. There is where I leave you. Preference murmured as Hagrid hurried off to examine the unicorn. You are safe now. Harry slid off his back. Good luck, Harry Potter, said Prince. The planets have been read wrongly before now, even by centuries. I hope this is one of those times. He turned and scattered back into the depth of the forest, leaving Harry shivering behind him. Ron has fallen asleep in the dark common room, waiting for them to return. He shouted something about Pitch Powell when Harry roughly shook him awake in a matter of seconds, though he was wide-eyed as Harry began to tell him and Hermione what had happened in the forest. Harry couldn't sit down. He paced up and down in front of the fire. He was still shaking. Snape wants the stone for Voldemort, and Voldemort's waiting the forest. And all this time we thought Snape just wanted to get rich. Stop spraying the name, said Ron in a terrified whisper, as if he thought Voldemort could hear them. Harry wasn't listening. Please save me. But he shouldn't have done so. Ben was furious. He was talking about interfering with what the planets say is going to happen. They must show how Voldemort coming back. Ben think friends should have let Voldemort kill me. I suppose that's written in the star as well. Will you stop saying the name Ron hissed? So all I have got to wait for now is Snape to steal Stone. Harry went on feverishly. The Voldemort will be able to come and finish me off. Well, I suppose Ben will be happy. Hermione looked very frightened, but she had a word of comfort. Harry, everyone says Dumbledore's the only one you know who was ever afraid of it. Dumbledore's around. You know who won't touch you anyway. Who says the signatures are right? It sounds like fortune telling to me. And Professor McGonagall, so that's a very precise branch of magic. The sky had turned right before they stopped talking. They went to bed exhausted, their throats sore. But the night surprise weren't over. When Harry pulled back his chair, he found his invisibility clock followed neatly underneath them. There was a note pinned to it just in case. And that's it for today. Thank you for so much. Stay tuned for next chapter. See ya. Bye bye.